Welcome to our second module in our 7 Norms of Collaboration course. This video is going to deal with the first 2 norms of collaboration, pausing and then paraphrasing. Pausing is simply taking time either before or after you've made a comment in a collaborative meeting, or asked a question, or before or after somebody else has asked a question or made a comment. The reason why we pause in these situations is that it's simple in that thinking takes time. The average human brain takes 3 to 5 seconds to process sort of higher level content, and some people take longer than that. Some people are external, what we call external processes of information. They're the ones that tend to think out loud, whereas others are more internal in that they do need to be silent and really digest that information before they are able to make sense of it. Pausing allows all people in the group to be able to have that time to process the information. So what that does is you don't have people talking and distracting those internal processes from making the meaning that they need to make. Wait times, there's been a lot of research around that and the benefit of wait time in student learning, and we believe that wait time is also important for adult learning as well, that time to gather your thoughts. Pausing begins a powerful pattern that is followed by paraphrasing and posing questions. So what that does is, the pausing is the part where you gather your thoughts. That is followed then by being able to paraphrase what has been shared with you, and then that will then give you the permission to pose questions in a collaborative meeting or setting. So there's 4 types of pauses. First is a pause after you've asked a question, and what that does is it allows the other group members thinking time. It also signals your support for their thinking, that their thinking it's important to you, that they've been given the time to think this through. It also demonstrates your belief that they are capable of really giving this their full attention and thought. The second type of pausing is pausing after a group member has responded to a question or a comment, and what that does is it allows time for the other members of the group to sort of make connections to what they were thinking, or things that they know that is related to what has just been said or what has just been asked. And what that also does is it encourages the piggybacking of ideas. So by having that time to think, that allows people to then add to those ideas without the moment being lost. The third type of pause is pausing before you yourself respond or give an additional question to something. So by you modelling pausing, what you're doing is modelling thoughtfulness as something that's appreciated and valued in the group, and it also signals your need to think before responding, and that's important, and that the more you'll do it, the more people will realise that, okay, this person just needs a little bit of time to think, and they won't jump in and fill that space with their own thoughts. Third thing is the collective pause. So that's when the whole group will pause collectively. This can be done in quite a structured way, or very informally, but what it does is it gives the whole group time just to gather their thoughts. Often that can be done in a few seconds to take some notes, or often it's just silent reflection time. And the facilitator of a collaborative group or meeting will often call for that, so that everybody has an opportunity to have a think about what they can contribute, or to process that information. Okay, moving on to paraphrasing. So once you've gathered your thoughts and you've really listened to what somebody has said or asked a question, then they might, contribute back. And by paraphrasing somebody's contribution or statement, or even question, that can be a very, very powerful tool. What it's saying to them is, by you paraphrasing them, that you are trying to understand what they're saying, and that means that you value what they have to say. It also has the opportunity of putting people on the same page. So by you paraphrasing back to what somebody else has said to them, it gives them the opportunity to clarify what they've said. So and to make sure that the meaning came across how they intended it, so they can say, no, that's not quite right, this is what I meant, or they can just confirm that that is what was meant. And by doing that, by pausing, really thinking about it, and then paraphrasing what they have said, and making sure that you have got the message right, that then gives you the permission to pose questions on what they have said. Okay, so the key to paraphrasing is really to start with you, not I. You start with you. So you think, you're saying, you believe, you're suggesting, you're proposing. So what you're wondering is, so you're thinking that, you're pondering the effects of, so your hunch is. So that is very different to starting with I. If you're starting with I think that you were saying, or I think you've said this, what a lot of people interpret that as you're just pretty much putting your interpretation of what was said. You're not really just trying to figure out exactly what that person's interpretation is. So always start with you. We're going to have a little practice or a few examples of paraphrasing. This is a gentleman by the name of Yogi Berra, who's a very famous baseballer, who's also very famous for saying some pretty wise things, but often in quite a clumsy way. So we're going to look at what he has said in the past, and we're going to paraphrase him. So here are some examples. It was impossible to get a conversation going. Everybody was talking too much. You mean people were talking over each other and no one was listening. You've got to be very careful if you don't know where you're going, because you might not get there. You're saying that we need to be clearer in our direction. If the people don't want to come out to the ballpark, nobody's going to stop them. You believe that you can't make people go to the games if they don't want to go. No one goes there nowadays, it's too crowded. You mean that people you know don't go there anymore because it's too busy now. You can observe a lot by just watching. So you're suggesting that we would learn if we watched carefully. So there are some examples of paraphrasing. There's three types of paraphrasing. What I've just shared with you there is really paraphrasing for the purpose of acknowledging or clarifying what somebody has said. So it's just a brief statement in the listener's own words. You're doing that to make sure that you've got the message right, and you're giving the opportunity to the person to get that message right if you haven't got it right. The metaphorical image, I guess, there is a mirror. So the person can see what they've said from your point of view, and they can then clarify to make sure that their message is right. The second type of paraphrasing is done to summarize or organize. So often a statement that offers themes or containers for ideas. In that way, the cardboard box is the metaphor that we'll use for that. So an example would be is if there's a lot of dialogue being going on, 5 minutes of speech with people talking, sharing ideas, and if somebody can paraphrase what has been said, and even if it's just with one person talking for a lot, if one person can paraphrase what was said and then provide, say, 2 key themes. So the paraphrase might be something like, so there's 2 issues here, money and time. And so what that will then is that will focus the conversation around those 2 themes and providing purpose to what goes on after that. The third reason to paraphrase is to shift the level of abstraction. What that does is that a statement that shifts the conversation to a higher and lower level of abstraction. So the metaphor there is an elevator. So an example of going to a higher level of abstraction would be paraphrasing somebody with what they believe. So they could be giving lots of concrete examples around teaching and learning and things like that. But if somebody could paraphrase and said, what you believe, you believe that students should be taught, or instruction should be differentiated for students. So that's something that they believe. Now, going down again, if people were being very clear in what they believe, but not providing concrete examples that the group can work with, somebody could paraphrase them and say, so an example could be to differentiate, could be to develop small group instructions in reading groups, something like that. So a concrete example, so that up and down. And that's important in that it can then guide the conversation in a way that's productive for the group. That's pausing and paraphrasing in a very brief summary. But as you will see in the module, therefore, for that. So then that second module, there's a reading that this is all based on in there around pausing and paraphrasing, and also you will see an opportunity to practice through a Google form your paraphrasing skills. So have a go at that, and then we will see you back for the third module around our 7 norms of collaboration.